Now let's talk about how we can store notifications in the database. Now, as I have previously explained that we can store notifications, we can send the notifications via email, and we can also store the notifications by using toArray method. Now, before actually using this toArray method, we need to actually define or run the migration that will create a table for us, and that table is called notifications table. If we do not have notifications table, we need to run the migration first. So how we can do that? First of all, we need to run the migration. So it should be php artisan notifications dash table. Now this will create a new migration in our database files. So before that, let's also spin our application. So php artisan serve. So the notifications table command has been changed. So we need to run the php artisan notifications colon table. So this will create a migration for us. So migration created successfully, and now if we take a look at the migration here inside our database folder and migrations, and we have notifications table. Now you can see this contains the UUID, the type of the notification, the polymorphic relationship, and the data. So this data is basically stored in the form of JSON. So let's try to create or store the notifications in the notification table. So assuming that we have the account created notification, and let's say we pass in the information such as username, and the username may be the notifiable email, and we can also store first name or last name, or we can also store the full name as well. So notifiable name, just for an instance. Now before that, we need to run the migration. So php artisan migrate, and this should create the new table in the database for us. Alright, so now we have this notifications table here, and if I open that, you will see we have type, notifiable ID. So these are basically the polymorphic relationships. So obviously we have not covered the relationships in the Laravel yet, but what these does is basically these store the type of class or type of the model from where this notification came. Alright, so before further diving into this polymorphic thing, let's try to run this notification, and in order to do so, we need to use this array method here as well. So similarly, we have mail here, we have array, so now we need to use the array here. Now if I open the trigger notification endpoint, let me just open the endpoint of the application, and after that trigger notification. Now this notification will send the email, as well as this will store the notification information in the database as well. Now if I reload the page or reload the database, now we can see that this is not yet stored in the database. The reason is that because we are running the should queue method, so we need to run the php artisan queue work here. So this command will send the notification and will store the data in the database as well. Now if I go to the jobs table, we have no jobs, but if I check the failed jobs, I see that I have occurred an error, and this error says that the invalid argument of driver array not supported. Now there is a difference between there are two things in order to store the data into the database. There is one way is called the toArray. Now this toArray method is also available for broadcasting the emails or broadcasting the notifications to the front end JavaScript powered applications as well. But besides that, sometimes or usually this does not work for the database. Now in order to store the data into the database, what we need to do is basically we need to use the database here. Now this to database will obviously store the data in the database notifications table. Now before that, we also need to change from array to database here as well. Now the reason I showed you why is we cannot work with array. I knew this before, but I wanted to let you know that sometimes or mostly this to array does not work for the database, as Laravel documentation does says that it works for the database, but this does not work as usually. Now in order to properly store the data into the database, we need to use the to database method instead of to array, and we also need to define the channel here as well. Now if we hit the notification the endpoint one more time, and if we check our notifications table, you will see we have now got the results here. Now the first is basically this is auto incrementing the UUID. The second is the type. Now this type, you can see this automatically got the type of the notification as well. So we can obviously change the type as well, but we will see like how we can change the type. Then we have the notifiable type. Now this notifiable type is actually the model on which we have ran the notification. So we have ran the notification on users model. So if you go to the web here, you can see we have user notifiable. So this is basically actually getting this user object here, and then notifiable ID. So this notifiable ID is basically the user ID. And then we have the record here in the form of JSON. So you can see we have username and we have name available here. Now how we can actually change the type of the notification. So for an instance, I want to set this type to be account created, for an instance, because I want to make sure that, or I want to fetch the notifications which have this certain types instead of having this class. So all I need to do is basically I need to define the type method in the notification class, and to do so we need to define the public function database type. Now this database type accept an object of notifiable. So we need to copy this from here, and then this returns the anything that we want to set the type of our type column. So in this case, I want to return the account created, and obviously this should return a string here. So now if I go back to the page, reload the page, and let's wait for the notification to run. So this is done now. Now if I refresh, this still has not changed yet. Let me first quickly stop this thing. Now let's reload the page one more time, and also let's run the queue again. And this time if I refresh the page, I see that the account created type has been changed in our notifications table as well. Alright, so we have learned how we can store the notifications in the database using the to database method, and we can also change the type of the type column in our notifications table by using the database type method. That's about it. And in the next video, we will see how we can fetch the notifications and mark them read, and also delete them from the database as well. That's about it, and I will see you in the next one.